So Susan's shared with us some books about kids in real-life situations getting involved and doing what they can to help a real problem in the world. The books I'm about to talk about they're books I've really read and enjoyed in the past year myself, so I have like no problems recommending them to someone else. And like most books I enjoy, they have a little bit of fantasy, maybe a little bit of magic, some historical fiction thrown in, and most importantly, a really witty, strong female character. How many of you have ever felt underappreciated by your family and friends? Maybe they don't really realize how hard you work to help them out every day, or all the things you do for them. That's pretty tough, huh? Well, Theodosia Throckmorton in Theodosia and the Serpents of Chaos has a similar problem. Her dad is the head curator of the Museum of Legends and Antiquities in London, and her mom is a famous Egyptologist. So Theo spends most of her time at the museum, and she really enjoys spending most of her time studying hieroglyphics and ancient Egyptian magic, and her special gift is actually seeing all of the horrible curses that are still attached to these religious artifacts that are being shipped into the museum. So she's trying to protect everyone in her family who are completely oblivious to this, and trying to get rid of the curses and classify them and come up with scientific methods for removing them to keep everyone safe. It's kind of tough that her parents don't really pay much attention to her. Sometimes they forget her, and she ends up sleeping in her sarcophagus overnight. But, you know, all in all, she's able to do a lot of things that maybe an 11-year-old wouldn't normally be able to do. But things start to really heat up, and weirdness is afoot when her mother brings back a special artifact from Egypt called the Heart of Egypt. Now, it's not only covered with scary curses that could mean the end of the world, it's also sought after by a secret society and some scary German archaeologists who are out to snag it to give power to the Kaiser. So while Theodosia is trying to figure out what to do to get rid of the curses on this particular artifact, she's also trying to figure out who she can trust and who she can't, who the baddies and who the goodies are. And there's also some concern because she thinks somebody on the inside is a mole and is giving information to the bad guys. So following Theo on her marvelous adventures, and she's so snarky, I absolutely adore it, was just hilarious and really engaging. This is one of those books that you pick up and from the first page, it's awesome. I'd highly recommend the audiobook, which is read by Charlotte Perry. I didn't have it to bring with me. But this is great for kids who are interested in a little bit of science, a little bit of history, maybe some Egyptology, but really it's a great book for anybody who wants a good read. And that's something that I forgot to say at the beginning of my talk, was that the sort of strong female characters that we wanted to emphasize in our books, you know, we really just wanted, I don't remember where I was going with that, never mind.
Would boys like them too?
Thank you, Bernadette. A+ for you today. You get a star. That was the other thing I was going to say, is that just because plucky heroines are the ones that we are, I love you, Bernadette, just because plucky heroines are the ones that we're emphasizing doesn't mean that anybody could enjoy these books. You'd have to either be a really boring person or dead to not like these books. So bring it. Okay, so I have a hypothetical question for you guys. What if Charles Darwin had discovered DNA? What if they had started genetic engineering in the Victorian era? How different might the world have looked? Maybe about 100 years ago, right before the start of World War I. What if the British had started developing fabricated animals that could pull omnibuses and act as war machines? And at the same time, along with that, in Germany and Austria-Hungary, the Industrial Revolution and steam power were being emphasized. So you have these two civilizations coming up against each other who have very different ideas about the way things need to be in the world, so on top of the normal power struggle that's there. So this is the alternate universe that Scott Westerfeld sets his readers in Leviathan, which is an awesome book. I highly recommend it. So the first character that we meet is Alec. His parents are Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie, who were assassinated, and whose assassination sort of begins the conflict. He ends up having to run for his life with a couple loyal servants and soldiers in a giant mechanical walker to run from the Germans who are out to get rid of the heir to the throne, right? So he's running for his life, trying to hide his identity and find a safe place to wait this out. And at the same time, we're introduced to Darren Sharp. Darren is from Glasgow, and she has to disguise herself as a boy in order to fulfill her dream of flying and join the Royal Air Service. So it's actually on her first day in the Royal Air Service that an accident happens that lands her on the Leviathan, for which the book is named, which is a massive airship that's really a whale. It's the largest hydrogen breather in the British fleet, and it's actually this entire ecosystem of different fabricated animals that work with it in order to make it a warship. There are, bats and strafing hawks, and it's really phenomenal, detailed read. But as these two are kind of going on their journey, on their separate journeys, they're going to cross paths, and in the midst of the conflict, try to complete a secret mission to bring a special scientist to Istanbul to keep the Ottomans from joining the Germans. So there's a lot going on in this book, and a lot of it's really technical, but it's super engaging too. And for those who are kind of maybe who enjoy graphic novels, there are really fantastic illustrations, and you can't see them super well because they're in pencil, but that really bring the book to life. So I would highly recommend it, and they really help you understand when there's all the technical jargon going on about different technology. I'm trying to remember if there's anything else I was going to say about this. Other than that, I highly recommend both of these books for anybody who's into sci-fi or historical novels or steampunk, anything. I mean, this can get you just thinking about a lot of different things. It can appeal to a lot of levels of readers. And, it's the first part of a trilogy. The second book, Behemoth, is awesome. And the third book, Goliath, is due out in September, so get on the waiting list for Amazon. This is also part of a series which has 3 books in it currently. Theodosia and the Eyes of Horus is the third one, and the second one, I forget. It's the Staff of Osiris, Theodosia and Staff of Osiris. So these are great to get kids started because there's a series just like the other one. So that's the
one more thing about the engagement process. These books in your classroom can go right on the shelf along with your science books because they read just like them. So they're read-alikes in that regard. You could put them in with nonfiction, and that's a great catch. Highly recommend. Thanks for coming to the fair.
Thanks for coming to our fair.